This is the Beyond the Dojo podcast. I'm Lauren.
I'm Jeremiah.
And to kick off today's episode, we are going to share some of our favorite moments from this week's sparring class. We started doing a last class of the month sparring
last
night.
Thursday night.
Yeah, is our fight night or sparring night.
Yeah.
That was obviously my idea. But
Huh?
What? So that
What'd you say?
it was my idea.
It was?
Yeah, because I suck at sparring, and I need the reps. You don't remember us having this conversation?
Pretty sure it was my idea.
Okay. Well, the reason we're doing it so that everybody gets the reps in.
Yeah.
So because I kind of feel like personally, I had started sparring too late, but anyhow. So this Thursday we had our fight night. Yeah. So what's one of your favorite moments from our fight night? Okay, I'll share one of mine. We'll kind of go back and forth a couple times. Or once. Jeremiah didn't have any favorite moments. I haven't gotten to participate until now, coming back from maternity leave. And I sparred against Rob. And Rob, starts off slow, but then, gets really hyped up. And then starts going kind of fast. And it's okay. But we're doing, slow sparring. Anyway, and he's trying all kinds of different stuff, and we end up kind of gridlocked a couple of times, and then he kept spinning, and I'm not really sure why. I don't know if he thought he was gonna do a spinning back kick, but then I was too close, or if he was trying to spin away from something. But I punched him in the back both times that he spun. But then at the very end, right as the timer went off, I kicked very slowly, and he grabbed my foot. And you could just hear a big scream throughout the dojo, which was mine. Yes. Okay.
I enjoyed sparring with Ken, and I enjoyed sparring with you. Ken and I started off with supposed to be some kind of slow sparring, but you know how Ken is.
Our black belts tend to get a little bit hyped up.
Well, to Ken's defense, if your entire exposure to Kumite is block with a really quick reverse punch counter, that's what you're exposed to, that's what you do, it's really hard to break that pattern and that reaction. So we were playing who could flinch the best to make the other person react.
The flinch game.
Yeah, so we were flinching a lot. Then it became who could block better.
Okay.
Who was not going to let the other person slide in, that kind of thing. So it was fun. I enjoyed sparring with you because, like you said, it was the first time in a long time we got to train together.
Yeah, somebody was on looking, and I don't remember which kid asked. They're like, "Are you guys fighting?" I was like, "It's a sparring class, so yeah." I wasn't really sure what they were getting at.
I don't know. Maybe they're not used to seeing higher belts do things a little bit different.
But I obviously am very out of touch because not only did you punch me in the ribs, which I don't think was your fault, I got nailed in the stomach so many times by so many different people because I was distracted by whatever else was going on, and then they would just end up nailing me in the gut every time. So that happened actually probably about 5 or 6 times.
Maybe you practice your blocking.
I was like, hey, this is probably a problem.
Yeah, it is.
This keeps happening. At least I didn't get hit in the face. But anyway.
That was our cat that just hit the tripod, so if you see a little shake in the video, that's our wonderful cat that decides that, everything's a scratching post.
The other one was one of our students, Colin. He I think he's trying to get over this whole I can't hit a lady thing, and which I totally respect, but you do have to spar women because we do have a number of teenage girls out there, and then me. So I sparred him like this with my fingers out. With one finger, index finger. Pokey sparring. His parents thought it was hilarious. But I poked him a few times, and then I sparred him for real. It didn't really go anywhere, but it's okay. That's why we're doing this.
Yeah, I will say this in that sparring night. I was somewhat of in a mood, and not a negative mood, but just a playful mood. And cornered a couple of brown belts and just wouldn't let him go anywhere.
There you go.
Would not let him go out.
That's
would
the
not
good
make
stuff.
him do. It wouldn't let him try anything. I just was.
Right, make them feel helpless.
menace and the smotherer. So
Yeah.
any move, I was already blocking.
Don't let them feel like they're learning anything.
Oh no.
Nope.
Got it.
Just let them feel
You got to
dominated.
reestablish that dominance once in a while.
Establish dominance. That's actually what the sparring night is for. It's just for us to beat up our students.
Yeah, it's a pecking order thing. It's to boost our egos and beat up on people.
Oh yeah. For sure.
For sure. So that's what we do.
Yeah. Okay. So it's been a hot minute since we went over any peer-reviewed karate research. So, I actually just searched karate in one of my search engines here, and actually the one that I came up with is from PubMed, and this study is called, and it actually plays along with some things I've been thinking about recently. That's why I decided we should talk about this one. But Motor and Cognitive Development: The Role of Karate by Alisi et al. And I think this is from 2014, but it's not anything like that's decade relevant, because just so you know, 2014 was 9 years ago. Huh?
Time sensitive?
Yes, because the tests are not. Yeah, it's not a technology-based thing. It was dealing with children. So I know that it doesn't say that in the title, but it's actually talking about motor and cognitive development in children. Yeah. So if you have worked in the exercise physiology world, or you have any kind of degree in that, usually there's going to be some point in your studies where you're going to talk about the role of physical activity when it comes to children. One of the reasons we have PE, or physical education, or any kind of recess in elementary schools and middle school and high school, is not just to get the energy out in children, but it's also because it goes hand in hand with their ability to perform better cognitively on cognitive tests. So, and that's been shown in anecdotal situations. Like, I think there was a school in Texas that had regular recess throughout the entire day, and their test scores were way higher because they gave kids the opportunity to not only exercise, which helps with their brain development, but also I think that task switching and having a break from so much stress of focusing on schoolwork actually made a big difference as well. That's not exactly what this is talking about, but that's just some background as far as there is some history with the role of physical activity and cognitive development. So that is mentioned here. And it's kind of mentioned here at the beginning, but they did this study on children, and the average age was about 9 years old. I think from the looks of it, they range between maybe 7.5 to maybe close to 11 years old, so they were around the same age range. You do have to keep in mind that children change so fast cognitively whenever they're really young. That's the reason that we have so many different age groups that we teach, because the difference between a 4-year-old and a 6-year-old is huge. The difference between a 6-year-old and a 9-year-old is huge. So, they do have a pretty small range here of students that they're working with. So what they did is these were, they had two groups. They had the karate group, and then they had the control group. So these were students that didn't do any kind of karate. And then the ones that actually trained karate, they trained at least 3 times a week. And they emphasized in the study that the students there was a little bit more focus on kumite. They didn't mention kihon, but they did say kata and kumite are important. But the students are getting a lot of sparring kind of stuff. Tying it back in to our opener. Didn't even mean to do that, but it worked out. So anyway,
barely.
Fine. It's not that hard. It's a karate podcast. We'll talk about fighting at some point. So they said 19 karateka and then 20 sedentary people.
Yeah. So I don't think it just means non-karateka, but more like kids that are just sitting around having no activities at all. Not
right.
All right.
Right, and they could, and when we get to the results, they could maybe have found similar results ish with students who did probably any other sport, but karate just a means to an end. But what they did,
any other sport as in instead of karate.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay.
Because of the nature of the testing that they did. So the tests that they did were they did a 20 I think this is supposed to say meter, 20 meter sprint test, which is just a speed test, and agility test, which was really interesting because in in normal like sports testing, there's this test called the T test where you sprint up like I think it's like 20 meters up, and then when you reach that 20-meter mark, you sprint to the right 20 meters, and then you sprint 10 meters, and then you sprint 20 meters to the left, and then you sprint 10 meters back to the center, and then run back, so it makes a T shape. This one is very similar, except that except that it was like it was a cross. They said cardinal directions. Yeah, like a big X, but not an X. It's like a T, Ultraman. Like a T.
For those geeks that know Ultraman.
So they actually ran up to the center point of the lowercase t, and then they ran to the plus sign, and then they ran to the right. But when they ran to the right, they actually hurdled over a 50-centimeter hurdle, and then they ducked under it to come back, and then I think they turned to the right and went up and over the hurdle, underneath the hurdle. So they went over, landed, turned, came back underneath the hurdle, came back to the center, and then went over to originally what would be the left side, and then same thing, over the hurdle, under the hurdle, and back. Which sounds like so much fun. Like I would do that just because.
Sound like the test was given outside of America.
This is a French, thing.
Because 50 centimeters, you said?
Well, research is usually standardized in the metric system.
Yeah. But how tall was the thing?
50 centimeters.
So our fat asses are...
These are children!
Our obese children would not be able to get through that tunnel. We'd break the tunnel every time. We'd have to rebuild it.
It's not a tunnel, it's a hurdle.
We'd have to rebuild it every time.
No. These are made out of metal. Anyway, but they did the agility test, which I thought was really cool and fun, and I would totally do it. And then they did like a standing broad jump test. I don't know why it says board jump, but I think that was just poorly translated. Standing broad jump. You'll do as a standing broad jump. And then they did the cognitive, so that was the athletic tests. And then the cognitive tests were, I can't remember them all, like based on those descriptions, but it was like one was like a page with a bunch of different like shapes or numbers or something, and you had to quickly mark off all the ones that didn't match, and then you had to keep all the ones that did match. And then there was another one that was like a recall test where the tester had a block and they pointed at like certain sides or certain numbers on the block, and you had to recall what the numbers were.
The sequence of the numbers.
Yeah, and I think there was like the two or three others. I actually did a bunch of those. Yeah. But they found that the karateka scored better across the board on all of the tests. So not just the physical fitness exam tests, which obviously they scored better on that, but also on the cognitive tests. And you would think, these sedentary kids, we don't know if they were kids that play video games a lot. We don't know if they were just staring at a hole in the wall. I mean, we don't know anything about them, but I think sometimes there is this thought that if you spend more time focusing on schooling and education and things that don't require any physical movement, that somehow those types of learning are just going to take care of all the cognition. But this is saying the opposite. It's saying that getting in the physical activity actually does have a huge impact on your mental development.
Yeah. I'm not trying to be like a bump on the log, but basically we're going to spend 20 minutes telling everybody what we already know, and that karate is great for kids.
No, I actually wanted to talk about something else related to this.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Okay.
No, this was just a supporting thought.
That's a duh moment right there. Like, yeah, karate is great for kids.
Well, but not everybody knows that, though.
Everybody that listens to us will know.
Well, no, knows it's great for kids, but for different reasons than you would necessarily think.
Yeah, but how many different reasons do you really need, though? I mean... Well,
let's go over the reasons that they gave. I'm going to pull it up real quick.
Okay.
See if I can find it. It's got numbers, and that helps.
Not really.
It does help. Executive functioning hypothesis. There it is. Okay, so to sum up, this is what it says. To sum up, karate exercise may impact cognitive development through multiple pathways. 1, neurophysiological by inducing changes in the brain structure, which we just talked about. Contextual by producing an enriched environment. So we've talked about that. We talk about that with our parents all the time. Like they get, new experiences. Social by creating opportunities of social interaction, cooperation with others.
Also known as community.
Respecting rules, sharing leisure experiences, receiving the encouragement of peers. So all of the ins and outs of
basically what we've been saying.
Being in a classroom, yes.
I mean, that's what we base our dojo on, basically.
Straight up. And then motivational by increasing self-concept and self-awareness.
Well, if you've been in my classes, you know we're not motivational.
I mean, motivation can take many forms. It can be, you know,
so my
external.
motivation is mirrored off my father's angry.
Being afraid is also motivation.
Fear-inducing, threatening of life.
Basically, being afraid of losing game time is what it is.
Oh, it's a beautiful thing.
Yes.
We need to create more new games, though. The dodgeball's getting a little out of hand.
Crab crawl soccer, y'all.
Ooh.
Yes.
So they wouldn't really want to play it.
So I've been thinking about this lately because we had kind of talked about this too.
That karate's great for kids.
Mm-hmm. When parents come in,
like great for kids.
Especially with younger kids. Now this is under the age of 9 that we're kind of talking, but
so 8-year-olds.
Also down to 4 years old because I have 4 and 5-year-olds. Like whenever 4 and 5-year-old parents, not the parents aren't 4 and 5, but their kids are. When they come in, when they come in with their parents of 4 and 5-year-olds, when they come in, normally I tell them like, look, we do some karate, but we have to spend a lot of time like going back and forth between work and play so that they understand class structure and task switching, and so that we basically get used to actually being in a class and following instructions, because just repping out karate stuff over and over again for a 45-minute class is a lot for a 4 and 5-year-old. Like the actual karate time in that class is it really only accumulates about 10 minutes, which sounds terrible. And I used to think like, oh my God, like you're paying for a class. At other places, you're paying for a class that's only like 25 minutes or 35 minutes. Well, now, consistently running a 4 and 5-year-old class, I can see why sometimes people will cut that class short, and not make it super long. Ours is 45 minutes, but we incorporate a lot of different things.
Right.
Warm up takes a while and all that kind of stuff.
Well, it's a lot of activity, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that also gives you the opportunity for the child to have the social interaction, to understand what's going on, to play, things like that most kids don't have a lot of time to do anymore.
Yeah. And, sorry.
I'm just having.
Sometimes, parents emphasize when they bring in their kids, like, well, my kid has some aggression and I want them to learn how to hone that before it gets out of hand. Or they'll say, well, my kid really likes, in quotes, karate. They play karate with their dad, so I want them to actually learn the real thing. Okay, and I'm not saying that's a bad goal, but they are very young. So while we are working that direction, we're going to start somewhere that looks like a watered down version of what karate is.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I have no problem saying that to anybody.
Mm-hmm.
We've looked into it and we did our research, and we know for a fact that the way we're going about our approach of being able to not only teach these kids how to do karate, but teach them how to do the things they're not getting taught at, like how to behave in class, understanding the work and play thing, and all those things that for the rest of their lives could help them, right?
Right.
So I have no shame, nor do I have any. I'm not even timid about it when I say it to the parents. I just look them dead in the face, be like, yeah, this is what we're doing.
Right.
And if they don't like it, obviously they go somewhere else. It's a free country, but honestly, the parents that I'm gonna be real. Some of the parents of these younger children that have ideas for their kids, like they're gonna do this or they're gonna do that, they tend to be not the greatest parents for karate. Like they tend to have ideas of what it's supposed to be.
Oh, okay. Like they have preconceived notions
of what it's going to be about, and they don't want to even listen to us what we're offering.
Okay.
Right? And then they get mad at us if you don't do this. We told you.
Right.
Like
we're upfront about what.
We're upfront, so it's not like we're hiding anything.
Yeah. So.
And different, but the reason why I can speak that way with confidence is because as you go up in the age groups and up in skill. There's an obvious transition to where it's like, this is what karate is.
Oh, yeah.
And there's no doubts about it, So,
yeah. So this is kind of the thing I've been wrestling with over the past, year or so. We had a situation where, this has happened a few times, where we've had students come in and they're very young, and they're in a young class, and they're there for a short period of time, and maybe they excel in the class, and before we have the opportunity to test the student, before we have the opportunity to offer them like, hey, you could probably move up a class, even though the next class up is a older age, you're cognitively there, so we can move you up. Before we ever have a chance to do that, they're removed from the classes for whatever reason. Maybe their parents take them to a different martial art, or they put them in a different sport because they feel like what they were learning in our situation was maybe not best for them, or they had this expectation of what self-defense is supposed to look like, and they didn't feel that our children's classes are teaching self-defense. Well, that's been the thing that I've wrestled with is what does self-defense mean? I'm
gonna say this. Your kid's 4.
Right. So
what kind of fights are they really gonna have to defend themselves in?
Well, and I think
just saying,
there is a lot of fear in parents, because if
that's so ridiculous.
I don't know if sometimes the parents are thinking of other kids as much as they're thinking of kids defending themselves against adults, which is even more unrealistic. Right. Yeah, I mean, okay, so realistically, if a kid fights back, they do have some chance.
Yes.
More so than if they didn't.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Right.
But the very hard fact, and it's hard to swallow, a pill to swallow, is this. Mm-hmm. Physically. No. They have nothing they could do to overcome someone that much bigger, more developed, more everything.
If they have any, if the person has any kind of strength or any kind of fighting skill or anything. So where my mind went with that.
Okay, my bad. I just wanted to get.
No, you're good. Because we've talked about that before, and I think we've talked about it on the podcast as well. Because it is a little bit frustrating. Well, I mean, it's very frustrating actually. At the time, at the couple of times this has happened, it's been very difficult for me to deal with mentally. But so I attended this conference a few years ago, and it was put on by the National Strength and Conditioning Association, and the very first speaker is a strength and conditioning coach for the Army, and he was talking about how a lot of our military personnel, they don't have modern strength and conditioning practices. So they have like old school stuff that they've done for decades and decades that's never been modernized for, today's situations, today's battlefield, et cetera, et cetera. Like there's tons of research that's gone into injury prevention, into conditioning, into whatever that these men and women could be doing to ready themselves for the battlefield, and yet they aren't doing that because it's either not made a priority by their branch of the military, or they don't have access, or whatever. And there was this line that he said, and I don't think there was we're literally at a strength and conditioning conference, and I don't think there was a dry eye in the room. And he said that properly conditioning these military personnel is the difference between life and death for some of them. Because if some guy is escaping like a roadside bomb or something crazy and twists his ankle, or like because he doesn't have the ankle stability and the leg strength in order to get away, like he's toast. And that has stuck in the back of my mind. And I watch like these young students that come in, and the things we spend the majority of our time working on with young students, besides learning class structure, is basic coordination to be able to do the karate movements that we're asking them to do, just the basic movements. And then things like skipping or jumping. Like they can't physically, if you think about a 4-year-old or a 5-year-old or someone that young, they physically don't know how to skip or to like jump or to like be any kind of springy, have any kind of speed, any kind of agility. They don't have it. And I think some teachers would look at that and they would say, well, then karate's not for them yet. Okay, then who's going to teach them that? Because a lot of those skills are learned skills. Like either from observation, because you've been around enough groups of people skipping that you picked up how to skip, or somebody broke it down and taught it to you. And I've had students that they've been in my classes for multiple years before they were able to skip. That sounds nutty, but there's also connections between your ability to keep rhythm when it comes to skipping, bear crawling, things like that we do. All of those things are also related to like reading ability, cognitive development, that kind of stuff. So we're saying all of this to say this.
Get your kids outside and play with them.
To teach a student how to skip, to teach a student how to jump, to teach a student basic muscular coordination, that is the beginning of self-defense.
Oh, there you go.
The basic low level fundamental skills of athleticism, that is the beginning of self-defense. Because if the kid can't run, they can't escape. If they can't jump over something, if they can't like coordinate themselves enough to even like do a basic crawl or keep themselves off of the ground for any exterior, like we do like a crab crawl where they have to like have their hands behind them and crawl. Like some of these kids don't have the strength to keep their butts off the ground for any short amount of time. But basic stuff like that, like that's the beginning stages of self-defense, because self-defense is a little bit more, situational. But I kind of had that realization recently watching one of my students who I'm teaching how to jump.
Why do I feel like I'm in the basement?
Oh, that
very basement feeling kind of podcast statement there. It's like, holy crap!
Well, I've been thinking about that really hard because my 4 and 5 year olds class has 3 students in it right now, just because of when it's scheduled. So I have a 5-year-old and I have 2 4-year-olds. And the 5-year-old and one of the 4-year-olds are very consistent. And the 5-year-old, when he started, he couldn't skip. He was okay. He actually really couldn't coordinate his jumping very well. Like I'm watching this kid after just over a year of training, he all of a sudden like he's figured out like, okay, when I do a frog jump, I have to jump with both of my feet, not just like halfway with one of my feet. And when I skip, I have to like pick one leg up and I don't just hop on one foot. And like he's learning how to do like rhythm and stuff like that. And then now I'm watching the 4-year-old go through the exact same thing.
Picking it up off of him also though.
Yes, he's picking it up off of the 5-year-old, and then because I've now done this through multiple cycles, now I'm like creating circuits and drills and stuff that will teach him how to do this. So like the other day we did this circuit where we put the strike shields, spaced them out on the floor, and his job was not to jump over the strike shield because he couldn't physically do it. His job was to jump onto the strike shield and then jump off of the strike shield and then jump on, jump off, jump on, jump off. And at first he couldn't do it. But then after a few rounds of that, and we're interspersing this with karate stuff too. After a few rounds of that, he was able to jump onto the thing, jump off the thing, jump on the thing, jump off the thing. That might sound really boring to anybody who's like not into athletic development stuff. Yeah. But I like to do this for a living, so this is fun to me.
Anybody that's in general, who's Generation Z or Generation X? What am I?
What?
What am I? Am I a...
I don't know.
What generation am I?
I don't know. The one before millennials.
All right, I'm the one before millennials. If you're my generation and you're going, what the heck are they talking about? Kids not knowing how to run, skip, and hop. You need to connect yourself and understand what little kids do nowadays. Outside play is very limited.
Yeah.
Any kind of interaction, like the normal wrestling matches and stuff that as we did as kids and all that, the craziness that we used to do is no longer a normal thing.
Yeah.
They're very limited outside. They're very limited to a lot of physical activity, and it's hindering us in the long run, not only physically but.
And even if you have a student whose parent like makes them go outside, that doesn't mean that they have a lot of kids to interact with, because that doesn't mean that other parents are making their kids go outside. So even they're trying to learn spatial awareness and body awareness and stuff like that, but it's hard to do when you're by yourself.
Yeah.
So
we're not pointing the fingers as if these kids are developed or slowly developed. It's just that they're not exposed to it like we were as children. As I was children. I can remember as a child, 4 or 5 year olds, I was out all day long. Mm-hmm. Came in for snacks and sandwiches, and that was it.
Mm-hmm. You made sure to get to snacks.
If I was held in during the day in the summer, it's because I was in trouble.
Mm. You probably had a lot of that.
I did.
Yeah.
Had a lot of spankings too.
That's good. They did him good. Good spankings. You didn't
have many of those, did you?
No, I didn't.
Huh.
I don't even want to get into the few spankings that are on my mind. It was usually because I was in danger. That's when I got spanked. Like I walked outside one time when my parents were cutting down a tree, and it was anyway.
Yeah,
stuff like that. I knocked over my dad's rifle one time.
Oh, I would have definitely spanked you then. Yeah, you'd have got one for sure.
Anyway, but it's interesting because parents watching their kid, a lot of the parents that are like engaged and they really want their kid to succeed, and they know they're catching on to what we're doing. They'll watch their kids and they're like, oh my god, my kid can't run in a zigzag. So they'll buy cones and stuff and make them practice at home. Yeah. Or they're like, why can't my kid jump? Like, they don't realize, like, my kid can't jump. Exactly. But it's because, you know, they've only had their kid for so many years, and they don't usually put them in that type of environment. Right. So because we're making them practice all of this kind of stuff, you know, now they've got... So we do, like, you know, these kids look at their little circuits as, like, obstacle courses. Mm-hmm. And I used to think, I was like, that is, like, the most McDojo BS ever. I used to like hardcore judge the obstacle course teachers. Like, that is so dumb. Like, it would be fun, but I was like, it's not karate. No, it's not karate.
Did you judge me when I used to do obstacle courses?
Heck yes. I was like, what is wrong with you? Why are you doing that crap? They should be kicking and punching stuff, and that is it. Nothing else. But now I realize, especially with younger kids, I mean, older kids can do it too, but especially with the younger kids, I realize.
It's a cop-out when you do it with the older kids. I'm going to be honest. Well, 9 to 12-year-olds?
No, because some of them have never developed some of those skills. We have some 9 to 12-year-olds that can't skip.
Yeah. Well, I should refrain it. 9 to 12 intermediates. It's a cop-out then.
Well, for them, it's just a fun thing.
Yeah.
At that point. Yeah. But any beginner students, like, you know, we have a bunch of those that still can't, even at that age. So, you know, incorporating a little bit of that when they're older is probably good. But especially whenever they're younger, making sure that they're getting in, you know, not free play because it's structured, but, you know, a little bit more ambiguity as opposed to the very strict structured, like doing your chokazuki, oizuki, whatever, and then doing all your blocks and your whatever. Like, we do all of that stuff, but adding in all of the other stuff where they can learn to coordinate on their own as opposed to having a very strict form. We kind of go back and forth between the two, and that seems to be working. Yeah. So that's kind of what this podcast is about, is just like the fundamentals of athleticism is self-defense. It's a start anyway. Because if you don't have that part, the rest of it's going to be like, you can poke somebody in the eyes if you're fast enough. Yeah.
Yeah, still takes skill.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So what you working
on? What am I working on? It's still the 5 punch 1 step drill. I stopped swinging my elbows like a hoodlum. When I was punching. I was like swinging my elbows out to the side. And I filmed it this week and it was a little bit better. The timing of that's still very strange. I think I just need to punch faster. I've been thinking lately...
Yeah, don't...
What? I've been thinking lately about, like, the past number of years. I've spent a lot of time, like, doing strength training, and, like, most of the time that, for most people, it doesn't necessarily slow you down. I don't know if I've talked about this on the podcast yet, but I think I haven't done enough speed training. I've done so much slow training to, like, fix a lot of my fundamental movement, and then also the strength training on top of it, that when we're in class and I try to go fast, like, sometimes it seems like I'm going pretty fast, but recently, especially, I'm like, I think I'm kind of slow. Like, I've slowed down a lot. I know I'm an old lady now. I've hit that 30 mark. But anyway, I need to do a little bit of speed training.
I think the faster you get, the less athletic it feels. The less you feel like you're slower.
Maybe.
You know what I mean? Like, when you get your coordination down and you're driving the right way.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, I felt like I was slow, but then when I'm against someone and I'm stepping and punch slowly, in my mind, I'm slow.
Yeah.
And these people react like, why are you going so fast? Or, you know, I'm not saying I'm fast. I'm just, you know what I mean? Like, they react
faster
the wrong way, and I'm just like, I'm going slow.
Yeah.
You know, because I think the thing about our approach about practicing the technique and patterns slowly to get it right is that when you do that, you get kind of hyper aware of what you're doing.
Yes.
You know, like really aware of what you're doing, right?
Yeah.
So when you go fast, you still have that awareness. It's just you don't feel it you don't experience it that way.
Well.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and I know that one of my problems right now is awareness to the point of, like, not just letting go and just doing the technique. I'm overthinking. Yeah. For sure.
Yeah, dude, I'm gonna be that's a mental challenge.
Yeah.
It's like the whole I'm afraid to do it fast because it'll be wrong kind of thing.
I
That's
guess
how
that's
it
what
comes
it
across
is.
for me.
Yeah.
It's like I want to make sure it's right, and I
Well,
don't
it's
want
like
to
I don't want to
lose a
spend.
rep.
I don't want to spend all this time trying to hone a technique just to do it fast, and then it'll like shit.
Yeah, but then the good thing is though, by honing your technique, it looks like shit. You without a doubt looks like shit. So that's the basis of improving it, even at speed.
What?
To know that you suck.
Oh, okay.
Gives you the foundation to make improvements.
Yeah.
Is that better?
Yes.
Okay. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Not saying that you suck, but I mean like.
Jeremiah just told me that I suck on this podcast.
She sucks.
What a jerk.
She's horrible.
You suck. What are you working on?
What am I working on?
Sucky suck face.
I'm working on suck face. Jesus. Really? Actually, I'm still doing the 5 punch 1 step.
I'm gonna make that the cover photo. That face that you just made.
Jesus. As I've been working on Gonkaku along with the 5-step, and I've been kind of shifted to focusing more on the Gonkaku stuff.
I just want everyone to know that he just said the 5-step, like the 5-step 1 punch combo. Like the jousting. Yes, you did. You said 5-step.
like the 1-step 5 punch combo.
Okay.
Right.
Yes.
I would like to everybody know that she poisoned my mind with that.
Because I just keep saying it. I probably said it on this podcast. I just keep saying it.
Over and over
5-step 1 punch.
Yeah.
Can someone please put that in their syllabus? Please.
We should put it in there for like.
We should put it in our syllabus. It's
God.
When does the punch come in? What is the timing? Is it the 2nd step? Is it the last step? Is it like how fast can you move your feet before that punch comes out? Is it faking out your partner and then punching at the end?
All of it put together. Depends.
Personal interpretation.
Yeah.
Artistic interpretation.
But yeah, just working on the one-legged kind of strength thing and posture and trying to get my balance better. Mm-hmm. I have a tendency to lean forward on my side snap kicks. And I've been working on trying to keep my posture upright the entire time.
Straight up.
It's amazing how much better the path is for the kick. Like it's less tension or impingement, I guess is the word for it.
No.
It feels like the joints there's working against you.
Yeah, because when you lean forward, you actually change the muscular action.
Okay.
So if your pelvis goes with you when you lean forward, it's more of like a horizontal abduction kind of movement where your legs going sideways, as opposed to when you're upright, you're actually just doing just normal abduction. So you probably have more range of motion in the joint if you're more upright.
That's probably what makes it feel easier.
Being upright, you mean?
Upright, yeah.
Yeah. Now, if you lean over, to the away from it, you have even more range of motion, but then you'll fall on your head.
Yeah, I'm not
if
even
you hit
talking
something.
about that. What I do now is I hip hinge and then lean.
Mm-hmm. Like kind of like rotate sort of.
Yeah. I'm trying to avoid that. I've always known that about my side snap kicks that I lean forward. Mm-hmm. It's just I didn't figure out how to do it yet in Gonkaku. The way the moves are, it forces you to be upright to even be on the 1 foot, right? And then when you go to kick, if you feel yourself go forward, it's like painfully obvious.
Anytime you have that back fist layered on top of the side snap kick, you start leaning forward and everything's like out of position.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. So
that's that's what I'm working on.
Sweet.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that wasn't a super eye-opening study, but at least it confirmed our own cognitive bias.
Yeah.
We should do an episode on cognitive bias. Anyway, all right. Well, thanks for listening. Bye.
Bye.